Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com, brought to you by the wonderful folks at Window Nation. I am Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel. He, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr., who is currently in the tourist mecca of Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl, where the Dallas Cowboys Brain Trust has convened to find themselves their next difference maker. Clarence, how is beautiful Mobile?
You know what? It is beautiful. That's the best part about it. The weather's beautiful. It's usually really cold. It's like you got, it's great weather in Texas right now. It's great weather in Mobile. It's usually really cold at this time of year. So everybody's excited and happy about the weather. Other than that, the hotel is a dump. I mean, worst Marriott I've ever stayed in. Just wanted the record show. Dump.
All right. I wasn't expecting that twist. So, Clarence, I've got a big day ahead of me. I am currently drinking from a coffee mug. I don't know if you can see this. This is the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. I guess that's Taylor's dad. I don't know. Somebody gave us this coffee mug with Taylor Swift wearing a sweater that says Dads, Chads, and Brads. So I guess I'm a dad or a Brad. But here's the exciting part for me. Today is my prep day for my very first colonoscopy.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Oh, wow. Do you have any advice? I know you've gone down this road once. Now, I've kicked the can on this like 3 times. I've had to reschedule it. Today, I'm committed. I'm like, nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So do you have any words of advice for me?
No. Just, just squeeze. Don't squeeze.
Okay. All right. Well,
actually, I have to take another one in the next month or so. So it's okay. You'll be fine.
I know. I've never done one.
It's just the night before when you drink all the stuff and everything comes out of the bottom end is that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I'm not excited about that. I'm kind of dreading it. All right, so let's get right to it. Dallas Cowboys news. Dallas Cowboys owner, Pro Football Hall of Famer Jerry Jones spoke to you and a couple of others yesterday in Mobile. And I read, obviously, your work there. You've done this now for quite a while. You heard him talk. Did he say anything yesterday? Well, let's go back. Give us a quick recap of some of the highlights that he talked about yesterday when he met with you.
It's funny because Jerry was all over the place, and you know how it's just tough to decipher Jerry sometimes because he can talk out of both sides of the mouth, and he always likes to have zingers and one-liners and everything else. But I just think I don't know if he was trying to paint himself in the corner. He was all over the place with about Mike McCarthy going to last year's deal and how they're both comfortable. The thing that frustrates Cowboy fans is him being comfortable with Mike McCarthy. People are tired of comfort. They want disruption. They want something different. Comfort is why you haven't had a Super Bowl in 29 years. They don't want comfort, but he's comfortable. He was, the buzzword was he was comfortable bringing back Mike McCarthy after his 12-5 regular seasons over the past 3 years, even though he's failed in the playoffs. He talked about Dak, and, it's funny because he said he was all in, but yet he wouldn't commit to committing to Dak.
I didn't get that. I saw that, and I thought, wait a minute.
How are you all?
You hit the nail on the head, though. That's speaking out of both sides of your mouth. I mean, I don't know how. Like, how do you negotiate that one, Clarence? Like, how does that work?
And then he, the zinger, the doozy that got me was, I believe in Dak's future, and I told you guys during the season we're gonna go as far as Dak takes us, and that's how far as we went. I mean, it was that, and then he said, and that's how far we went. But I'm committed to Dak. You went 1 round. You're happy?
No, you quoted Jerry saying something that I think he has said, I don't know, 78 years. Do you believe, Clarence, Jerry is going all in?
The difference here is that, yes, I don't know if he's ever gone all in.
But wait a minute. He said it. He said it all the time.
But the difference is that it's almost like, I don't know if your wife ever told you try to serve two masters. You know, they've always tried to serve two masters.
How do you mean?
I want to win, but I want to plan for the future. I want to
Oh
win,
yeah,
but I want to plan for the future. I want to win, but I don't want to. I want to, because they're all in, but they were always all in at bargain basement. You know,
yeah,
I'm all in, but I'm not going to mess up my salary cap. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of money. So how can you? The Rams were all in. Okay, their
yep.
teams have shown the Cowboys have never really gone, even though they said they've never gone all in. And Jerry said that the thing that to me was the difference, if and we'll see if it comes out, was, you know, we won't be. It's not about the future; it's about now. And that's what was the devil that was the difference in him all in. But of
So
course,
wait a minute. So you know, there's being smart all in and stupid all in. And a few years ago, when they traded for Amari Cooper in the middle of the season, that was kind of an all in kind of move.
you know,
And
that's because they messed up. What didn't, you know,
absolutely,
they went to receiver by committee. I mean, that was
bomb.
that was to make up for a mistake in the offseason.
So give me an idea. Give me an idea of what kind of move that they could make between now and let's go July, end of July, start a camp. That's an all-in kind of move.
Well,
That's atypical from what they've done in their past. And trading for Trey Lance doesn't count.
no, trade for Trey Lance doesn't count. You know, one thing they need to do is commit to the guys they have on the roster, the Michael, the CeeDee Lamb, the Dak. Fix the salary cap, because they're $19 million over the cap right now. So
How? Okay.
Yeah, because of the contracts, you know. So they have to get back under the cap, and then they have to make moves in free agency to add to what they have. And I don't know if that means going after a Derrick Henry or something like that to add to this, you know, the running back room. Because, you know, Jerry talked about having to fix the running game, you know,
Yeah.
and on both sides of the ball. And so, you know, it starts with the contracts with the guys that they have to take care of.
Okay, well, you kind of touched on this a minute ago, but we will obviously have to dive into this a little bit more because Jerry did talk out of both sides of his mouth. Clarence, do you think Jerry is still all in on Dak Prescott?
The problem is that what's the alternative? You know, and it's like a poison pill either way.
Yep.
You know, and from you know, he didn't want to talk the contract. You know, it's funny because, you know, I juxtaposed last year at the Combine, our Senior Bowl, after Dak had the 15 interceptions, and there was all this talk about Dak. They were bullish on Dak, very bullish. Yep. Dak's gonna be a quarterback for 10 years. You know, we love him. He's not going anywhere. Blase, blase. This year, they refused to commit. Not that they weren't refused to commit to Dak. They refused to commit to saying we're going to sign him to a contract extension. Last year was, yes, we're going to get Dak a new contract. We have to get that salary cap number down because there's a $59 million cap hit next year. We needed to sign him to an extension. They won't be here for 10 years. This year, do you want to sign Dak to an extension? We're not talking about contracts.
Well, that's a big change because, you know, when he was on his radio show, I don't know, 1st of December, late November. No, remember, 1st of December, late November, it's happy times. They're rolling.
Yeah.
He basically all but said that's a done deal. That's just a matter of when, not if. And now all of a sudden, I mean, Clarence, is there any reasonable way that, I mean, is there any, forget reasonable, is there any realistic way, given his contract, that he's not the starting quarterback of this team for a minimum of the next 2 years?
Yeah, I know he's 2024. Well, first of all, it's not a minimum of 2 years. It's either he's here just for 2024, or he's here for several years after that.
Oh, okay.
Because the contract's up in 2024, so you have to sign him to an extension. They cannot trade him. They cannot put the franchise tag on him. So there's no path past 2024 without getting a new deal done. You know, they have to commit to something. And the thing that they're doing is if you let he and Mike McCarthy go into the last year of his deal, their deals together, there's no guarantee that Dak comes back because it's wide open, you know, and you're chancing him going somewhere else. And I'm going to tell you, Cowboy fans can be mad at Dak, hate Dak all you want to. Pittsburgh would love that. New Orleans would love that. There are a lot of teams.
There's a lot of teams that would take
who would jump at Dak Prescott.
Yep. Right.
And so he would not be free for long. And that's the question for the Cowboys. That's the thing that what Jerry has to decide. You talk about comfort. Jerry does not want to be in that quarterback abyss he was between Troy Aikman and Tony Romo. Nope. And there's no guarantee. And there are a lot of people say, well, get rid of Dak and go draft one. Draft two, Sam Darnold. Draft there are no guarantees.
Draft Baker Mayfield. I'm not, and I know Baker got to the playoffs and he's done all right, but is Baker Mayfield better than Dak? That was the number one overall pick.
Yeah. So there's no guarantees that once you get on that merry-go-round trying to find a quarterback, you're going to find one. And so those are things that the Cowboys have to decide. The main thing, I guess, the point to me is that it's all up in the air. Okay, there's a chance the Cowboys could sign him, and there's a chance that the Cowboys could just let it play out. And letting it play out again is something that's different than what they've talked about in the past.
No, and they really are in a hard position because he's so good, and he's good enough to do what he did during the regular season, right? That's not an accident. That's better than most guys. And it's now Lamar Jackson's facing the same thing in Baltimore, right? Really good quarterbacks, big numbers, NFL regular season MVP finalist, all these superlatives, great guy, terrific leader. And then they get to the playoffs and they're just not as good. And the numbers speak for themselves.
And there are a lot of reasons for that. I mean, Matt Stafford couldn't win in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's another one. Yeah.
Until you go to the Rams or something like that. And so, I think that, we can go back and then I'm not saying anybody's Peyton Manning, but I remember the Peyton Manning
about having a Peyton.
Not being able to win the playoffs and losing as a favored number one seed and all this other stuff many times. And so the question,
if we're going to stay on that one, what about his brother? What about Eli?
Yeah, Eli's not that good, but he played, but he was wonderful in the playoffs. Tony Romo, Eli Manning. There's no way to question that Tony Romo was a better quarterback, but Eli performed in the playoffs. And the thing that I always pointed then, and I will point to now, Eli had a better team around him. Yes,
he had better defense.
He had a better defense. He had a running game. It wasn't all on Eli. And I would say that, the one thing that Jerry has learned or felt they've learned, watching the playoffs. And I would listen. I'm not dumping on Brock Purdy, but if Brock Purdy get you a Super Bowl or get you a championship game, Dak Prescott can.
I totally agree with you.
Jared Goff, to a championship game, Dak Prescott can. The thing that the difference with those guys is they have better defenses, they have better running games, and so those are the things that Jerry talked about. The things that they need to do better was stop the run and run the ball better.
All right, we got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime, but first, a word from our friends at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no interest payments for 60 months, 5 full years. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you very much, Window Nation. It's Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. He's Clarence E. Hill Jr., live from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. I'm Mac Engel.
Alabama.
Okay, Clarence. Jerry said a word yesterday. You referenced it here at the top. And I swear to God, it gave me PTSD from the Wade Phillips era, and that is comfortable. Wade was a big comfortable guy. I want my team to be comfortable. That worked out. Now Jerry Jones is comfortable with Mike McCarthy as his head coach. Is that a problem?
Well, I think that's a problem with Cowboy fans, and I think that one reason why they didn't make any changes because they didn't want to disrupt the apple cart. Everything that they're allowed to do, whether it's personnel and how they run their business, is comfortable with Mike McCarthy. And there's a question of why didn't he go after Bill Belichick? And Jerry did not go after Bill Belichick, even though Jerry said yesterday that he could work with Bill Belichick. He likes Bill Belichick. They didn't talk to Bill Belichick. Well, Bill Belichick come in here will want to change things and how they do things. Personnel change, a lot of things, how they go about their business. And that's not what, that's one reason why he didn't get the Atlanta job. And that certainly will be something that will be different here. And Jerry's not ready to change how they do business, so to speak. And for Cowboy fans who are frustrated with 29 years of not getting the Super Bowl, they want them to change how they do business. They want them to do something different. And I guess the problem that I have with the disillusionment and anger and frustration is people just want change for change's sake.
They do.
And people are mad as they've ever been and frustrated as they've ever been. And, I was talking to some people, you would think the Cowboys went 1-15. You would think the Cowboys were 15, not 12-5. I mean, they're everybody. I mean, they were a good team. They just don't lose their way in the playoffs. But I don't know if the solution is tearing it all down.
I don't think it is. And this idea,
tear it down and start over. Do you think they would stomach a 6-10? Jerry Jones would want to stomach 6-10.
No,
I don't think the Cowboy fans want to. They're not going to show up to support a 6-10, 3-13 team as they're starting over and getting rid of everybody and starting over. I don't think people can stomach that either.
Well, and there's no guarantee just because you hire Bill Belichick and it's a rebuild that's going to work. I mean, There was a rebuild in New England, and he didn't have a quarterback. He didn't have one.
Right.
And this idea, and I want to address this. I wrote about it last month. Jerry proved, and I think he did it as a point to prove to people that he could work with the Bill Belichick type when he hired his mentor, Bill Parcells, and he worked with him. And those guys liked each other.
Right.
But the one thing that Jerry and Stephen Jones really didn't like is that Bill Parcells is not fun. He's not. He was miserable. I mean, he was a miserable guy to work with for those guys. And because he just hated how he felt when they won, because he knew he was going to have to do everything in his power to maintain that feeling just to avoid losing. And it's really, really hard. Belichick's the same way. And I was talking about with a friend of mine who used to work there, and Stephen Jones said it after Bill Parcells left. Now we can have fun again. They're not going to go back to that guy. They're just not. They're not going to be in pro football and not have fun. And Bill Belichick is not about that. It's just not. So they're not hiring him. And then to the other point, if you change out McCarthy, you're not just changing out the head coach. You're changing out schemes. You're changing out personnel. You're changing out. That's a huge thing.
Right.
And that's not just a 1-year flip. Oh, we're going to be 12-5, and then we're going to go 3-0 in the playoffs. There's no guarantee of that. So I think retaining McCarthy from that perspective is the right idea. I think it comes back to the other thing we talked, and you hit on a little bit. You've got personnel issues. You're good enough to be 12-5, but you have real weaknesses that the Packers exploited. And if they don't address those, they got the same problems. Jerry talked about it. They've got to run the ball better. They got to stop the run. Yeah. And Clarence, the way this roster is constructed right now, I don't know. Do you see that they're capable of running the ball that much better or stopping the run any better than they did against Green Bay, which they didn't at all?
Going to get a running back will help that, and they can solve those things. Going and getting some guys in the middle, getting linebackers. They can do those things. But I would going back to Parcells. Parcells was not fun for the players. He not one fun for Jerry. He was fun for us.
Oh,
he's fun for us. Yeah, Bill Belichick would not be fun for us. Okay, Bill Belichick was fun for nobody. Okay,
no,
he's not great press conferences. Parcells was great for us. Okay,
no, I mean Clarence, and I don't know how often I hear, like I heard Tony Romo during the broadcast of the AFC title game. He was talking about hidden yardage, and I'm laughing. I'm like, that was a Bill thing. Bill was big on hidden yardage, and adding those numbers up. There's so many things I learned from him.
Well, we learned a lot of football from Parcells, and so,
I really did. I really did, and from my perspective, I learned a ton from him. But I understand from I remember talking to assistant coaches who work for him, and look at that coaching tree. Look at how many of those guys who are now all over the NFL, and that speaks highly of him. And whereas the Belichick one is just flop after flop after flop,
and he will be horrible to work with for us as well as the
Cowboys. Terrible. Who cares? Nobody cares about us. I just don't
do. I care about us.
I know.
I'm team media.
Hey, I'm down. But I just this idea that if I'm like, okay, so how many players, Clarence, do you think they need to get? Give me a number, not a name. Give me a number. How many players do they have to get realistically to address those issues to be better and to sort of close that hole? I'm talking running backs, linemen, both sides, and linebackers. We talking 5 guys?
Yeah, 4 or 5 guys for sure. And that can be done with the right guys, and certainly in the draft, and and some things like that. But it's not just personnel; it's also scheme, especially on defense. I mean, you can't be running a pass defense scheme against a run heavy offense.
But Clarence, you think he would run that scheme? Dan Quinn, you think Dan Quinn would run that scheme if he'd had a linebacker or 2 who could play, as opposed to moving up a safety on 3rd and 1?
The thing about it is, and I hear you. But the Cowboys started 3 safeties last year. Their base defense was a big nickel, was 3 safeties. They chose to move Marquise Bell from safety to linebacker in training camp well before Leighton got hurt. Okay, it was because we're going to have a big lead and we're going to play for the lead. And we're going to rush the world. So to me, that was part of the problem is that they did draft Mozzie Smith to help against the run. And Mozzie Smith was no help. He lost weight and different things like that. But they did draft Mozzie Smith to try to help stop the run up front. But so they need to get better up front. Certainly need to get better linebackers. It's funny because somebody on IG has a question of the common denominator with our playoff bust in the past years. You would say it's Jerry Jones because he's been there. But I would say the past 3 years, the common denominator, the Cowboys not being ready to play.
Did you think they were not ready to play in San Francisco last year? I thought they were.
I'm thinking of the 2 home games.
Oh,
the home game
against the 49ers was bad.
The home game against the 49ers when Mike McCarthy said that he sensed in the locker room before the game that they weren't ready to play. And I don't know how you let them walk out there not ready to play and when you sense that. And then obviously you fall behind 27-0 to Green Bay. Somebody wasn't ready to play. They were playing too fast. But so to me, it's at least if you want to say the past few years, the common denominator is Mike. If you want to say the past 29 years, the common denominator is certainly Jerry Jones, and certainly the past 7 years, the common denominator is Dak Prescott.
And the other common denominator? Clarence Hill. I don't understand. Hey, you owned it. I don't understand, Clarence, how in a playoff game at home your team is not ready to play. Well, at least in San Francisco on Sunday between the Lions and the 49ers, Lions came out and kicked them in the teeth right away. Could you say they weren't ready to play or they got outplayed? I don't know. There is a fine line. And the
thing about and that's why you love Dan Campbell and they came up short. I don't like how he managed the game sort of in the second half and in his aggressiveness and all this stuff, but they were ready to go from the jump. They were at the hair on fire. They were ready. They jumped out to the lead. Should have won that game. Sometimes would make you laugh and make you cry because Dan Campbell's aggressiveness ultimately was the reason why they lost. Because you coach different when you have a lead than when you're behind. You can say we got here by being aggressive. No,
I know.
You don't. You coach differently. You ever say, well, in Dallas, he went for it. The 3 2-point conversions. He kept going for it. Well, you were trying to prove a point against Dallas. You were trying to show the world that we're right. Now you have your game a quarter away from getting to the Super Bowl. You don't do the same lame brain thing.
I agree.
Especially when you have a chance to have a touchdown lead. I don't care what people say.
We might as well deviate into this real quick before we wrap this up. I thought about this a lot, because I know a lot of people, a lot more than I thought, who grew up with Dan and Glenn Rose, and I was really sympathetic because I knew how badly they wanted it for him. And you meet those guys and they want it so badly for that person because they knew him when they were nothing and just a regular guy and they were hanging out. And I'm watching that game. You go back to the Cowboys game when he was going for 2 points. I understand when he did it when the ball was 2, and I understand why he did it again. The third one, they moved the ball back to the 7. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And ultimately, it really didn't cost them. They got 2 home games out of it. So it really didn't cost them. But in that one, I'm like, and the other thing, too, is the Lions just kept dropping the damn ball. I'm like, oh, my God, they are totally gagging this away. And I don't know if they were going to win that game, even if he had kicked the field goals. You don't know if they're going to make it. You don't know the butterfly effect. But I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And to sit there and say, I mean, that aggressiveness, that belief, all that's a big reason why they were in that game and all that stuff. But to sit there and say, and I saw the defense of it, to sit there and say that didn't blow up in his face somewhat is disingenuous. It totally did. And I hate it for him, but it did.
Yeah, because your job as a coach to put your team in the best chance to win. And so that's what you're doing with that aggressiveness. But also in the fourth quarter, your job is not to lose the game for your team. And you can't control drop passes. You know, you can't control a ball bouncing off a guy's helmet and turn into a touchdown. But what you can control is the things that you can do for your team. Yep. And you did not put your team in the best situation to win. And that's my problem with the analytics people, because emotion is real. You know, momentum is real. I don't care what you say. You can't measure it. But I'm talking about the third quarter, when they kick a field goal, and you have a chance to go back and kick a field goal and make it a 3-touchdown lead. I mean, a 3-score lead again, and you fail because you go for them fourth, and they go about immediately score a touchdown and make it a 1-score game. That's momentum.
Flip the game.
They flipped the game.
They flipped the
so
game. To sit there and think that
their head dropped. Well, we did that for nothing. Can you come back?
Who's there, Clarence? All right. Well, anyways, we've talked enough. I have to go to the Shrine, the East-West Shrine Bowl, to talk to your head coach. Horns down, Clarence. Steve Sarkisian's going to be there. Hey, that's right.
Telegram policy, no horns down.
I'm going to have fun with that. All right. How many more days you in Mobile?
I leave tomorrow.
All right. Enjoy the trip. For all of your Cowboys coverage needs and everything else, check us out on StarTelegram.com. He's Clarence Hill. I'm Mac Engel. Thank you, Window Nation. See you next week.